It's gonna be a very long and detailed video, but don't worry, you can jump right into your favorite part using the timestamp below. Otherwise, thank you for watching the whole thing. All right, let's create our Electron app. I'm gonna use TypeScript, so I'm gonna use this template that allow me to use TypeScript in Electron. Then we're gonna install React because when we're working with UI, I wanna work with React, not just pure JavaScript. And we're also gonna install Tailwind CSS for styling and all that. So let's get into it. I'm gonna copy this here and I'm gonna change the name to ICM. You can see here that all the dependencies and all the packages, all the folder structures, directories, all being created. All right, we have all the file here. Now I'm gonna install React because if you look here, you can see this index file and there is a render file. And if you want to write any UI, you should write it here in this render file, and it's going to be JavaScript or TypeScript, no React involved. So I'm gonna install React as well. Now that React is installed, I'm gonna create a file called index.tsx, and I'm gonna copy this here. And here I'm gonna say render the app component. And I'm gonna create an app.tsx, and I'm gonna say export default function app. I should add something to tsconfig file to understand React. And now I'm going to import it here. Very good. And in the render file, instead of, I'm going to import the index file, which is this file, which is this app component. Okay, so we have TypeScript, we have React, and we have an Electron app. I'm also going to install Tailwind CSS as well. I'm going to use post CSS. I'm going to follow this installation. Then I'm going to add this here, TS and TSX as well. I'm going to create a file called post CSS config. I'm going to add it here. For now, it's empty. I'm going to rename it to main CSS, and I'm going to add this here. Okay, let's run our app and see what we got. I'm going to use npm run start. Fantastic. Okay, we have our app up and running. It seems like Tailwind is not affecting. Like, I'm going to go here and I'm going to add just for testing purposes. Okay, Tailwind is not working. In render config for white, I'm gonna say plugin post CSS like this. So now I'm saying whenever you're compiling the render file, pay attention to any CSS file because you're gonna post CSS that. Let's run the app again. There we go. Okay, now we have Tailwind as well. Okay, now we have our app up and running. If you remember from the previous video, we had a service in Node.js. We wrote this load balancer and proxy in Node.js. If you haven't watched that video, go watch the previous video. I'm going to link it somewhere. In that video, we coded this together, and now we're going to import all of this to our Electron app and import them as a service, and I'm going to use them. So at first, I'm going to create a folder called services, and I'm going to add a file. I'm going to bring all of that. Okay, very good. Now we have our detect interface, which you can export. Okay, in Electron, when you have a service, Electron is like a normal web app, you have backend and you have your front end. In the back end, Electron is like a normal web app. You can have your backend and your front end and connect them together. If you want to use this detect interface, we can create a service in Electron that return all the interfaces, and in the front, we can connect to that service. So here we have a file called preload. In the preload, you can add all your services, detect interface from services. Then I'm gonna import something called bridge context from Electron. And I'm gonna say get all network interfaces. And here I'm gonna say get all is a function that I'm also gonna update the window export network interface. Okay, so I'm exporting the type as well. So I'm updating the window object in browser, and I'm telling it that there is a network interface list that will return list a bunch of network interfaces. Okay, so this is our service. Now in the front, we can call this and get the value from the window object, which is global. So here I can say network, I can create a state, and for now it's an empty state. I'm going to use effect. When window is available, just update that network interface for me. Oh, it's not a promise. I should change it to something like this. Okay, what I'm saying here is whenever the window object is available, there is a network interface list that you can get all interfaces. How did I do that? I use preload to attach my service to the window, which is global in the browser. So now here in the app, I'm using that service. I can now loop through them. Let me make them a little bit smaller. There we go. Very good. Now we have an Electron app that it's getting all the network interfaces. Now we want to create an UI that can show user all the interfaces. It can be an interactive UI, okay? So we should create an UI that can be interactive, and users can see different connections, choose the ratio, they can turn on and off, and they should see all the logs, things like that. So what I'm thinking about is we create something like this, small header, and we can have a switch here, can turn on and off. We can have small section to show all the logs for debugging and things like that. Then we can have a section that shows all the connections, can be like Wi-Fi, and a smaller button here can turn on and off. And we can have a section that shows how our load balancer is working. Now we might have a lot of these connections, right? You can have your phone, your Wi-Fi, whatever. So this could be our UI. You know what? Let's change this a little bit. We can bring the button here, and the percentage can go all the way like that. Yeah, I think this way would be better, and we just list them together like this. So this will be our UI. Here you can create, you can run, you can start and stop the server. Here you can enable each of your connection that you want. Here you can change the percentage of that connection, that load balancer, and here you will see all the different logs. I found this very cool UI design system in the Figma. I found it in the Figma community. I really like the theme, the color, the font. You can see it here. It's very nice and clean. Yeah, this is pretty much like what we're gonna do. Yeah, you can imagine it. It would be something like that. And this one can be our background. So I'm gonna use this as background of the app. And I'm gonna use all of these colors and assets and fonts and spacing and all that to create this. Let me grab this and bring it here. So yeah, give or take, this is what we're gonna create. It's pretty much similar, but here in Figma, we have all the assets, we have all the font, colors, spacing, and all that. And this is what we're gonna create in the next video. In the next video, which is probably the final part, I'm gonna code this UI and bring it live here. You can see we have nothing going on for now, but we're gonna code this UI and then we're gonna use this backend that we have, and we're gonna use this socks connection that we created from the previous video. And when the user start the server, we're gonna use this socks file to start the server. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next one. If you like this series, subscribe and you'll get notification when the next episode is up. So I will see you in the next video.